Hello there, my name's Electric Johnny Hats. Hope you're all well. Just going to do something different today. I want to talk about volcano vents, which are vents that will be underneath the oceans. So we all know that when there was a flood a long time ago, a lot of stuff was buried through the floods. I'm not talking about mud floods, I'm talking about the ocean floods. The deluge. So I've been doing some research into this, and I think I talked about it briefly before about the volcano vents and what they cause. And when they were looking underneath these oceans and looking for these vents, they were finding all kinds of different waves and that coming out from the atmosphere, the top of the atmosphere. Different sort of vibrational frequency vents. Well, like waves basically coming from the vents. And I was wondering where these were actually coming from. And in 2007, with a load of sort of discoveries that they were trying to find. They didn't know about this, but around 2007. This is the date they're giving, but it could have been a lot longer than that, because they don't talk about this kind of stuff, do they? Even though volcano vents are quite well known, quite popular, but the ones under the oceans are obviously slightly different. And there's volcanoes under the oceans that are absolutely huge. And anyway, around 2007, they say that the date that they gave, they found another ocean through these frequency vibrations that was coming up to the atmosphere. These waves they found out were coming from underneath the Atlantic Ocean. And underneath the Arctic Ocean. And they basically found an ocean the size of the Atlantic Ocean underneath. So where these volcano vents I'm not going anywhere. So where these volcano vents are, they found an ocean underneath the crust of the volcano, an ocean underneath the ocean. And these vents were to be caught in these vibrations and these waves, coming up to the atmosphere. And this is how they found it. So 2007, let's say the date that they've given, I believe it's probably a lot longer than that. Way before that, they started doing more discoveries, and then there was other discoveries around this time as well, with Mike DeGraw that was finding salt lakes and salt oceans underneath the salt oceans. They were finding these salt banks, and then they were finding these other oceans underneath them as well. But these oceans, the water was so dense that they couldn't actually get through. So basically, when Mike DeGraw went fishing, through the Blue Planet that Mike DeGraw done this, and they found the oceans underneath other oceans. Like I say, but the water was a lot more dense. So dense that you couldn't get the ship or the sort of little submarine wouldn't go past it. It would just bounce off this ocean underneath another ocean. So when they were doing more and more discoveries, they did find the ocean, the size of the Atlantic Ocean that was underneath the Arctic Ocean. So now they started going through the Arctic to find out what's going under there, which I think could be confused with the inner Earth, that Hitler was talking about, and that as well, allegedly talking about. No one's talked to him directly about that. It's all hearsay and speculation. So, yeah, they're finding oceans underneath the other oceans, underneath the crust of the volcanoes where the vents are. Very interesting. Well, I'm actually going to do a video on this. I want to do a video on this. I'm just talking about it, but I want to do a video on this to give people a better explanation of it, or to give some sort of visual proof to show this, But we're all aware of volcano vents. They're everywhere under the ocean. And the vents are where the lava travels, in these vents. And then I listened to other researchers quite recently, not too many, so I don't like outside influences. and you keep hearing this thing about the Kraken. Now they're relating the Kraken. I'm relating, the Kraken based on the film, the Kraken, the lizard, the dragon. But for me, it's just a metaphor. The Kraken is just a metaphor for the underwater vents. So when they say release the Kraken, like they did in the film, it was basically release the vent, open the vent to release the water for the deluge, for the floods. And we all know about the main flood because we have so much proof of that. Obviously, there's plenty of proof of that, which can't be denied. So the Kraken, the other researchers are making it political. This is why I don't trust all these. You shouldn't really be trusting anybody out here, to be quite honest with you, because this is all internet based, So the research you do, I think you should stick with it yourself and don't use outside influences. But all I'm saying this about other people is about, because they're relating the Kraken to political stuff, which I don't believe as well. They're talking about crazy stuff like, people doing crack, which is the politicians doing crack that is related to the Kraken. But no, I think it's complete rubbish. The Kraken and the film, the film that had the Kraken in it, release the Kraken. It was just opening the vents. It was a metaphor for opening the vents. So there wasn't really, I don't believe there was really a dragon. It's just a metaphor. Like a lot of stuff that people take literally. And it doesn't have to be taken literally because it's not literal. It really isn't. So just go back and think about that film when they say release the Kraken and the Kraken comes up. And the ocean goes all over the place where the Kraken's coming up. But it's basically the releasing of the vents, the volcano vents that will release the deluge of water. The deluge. The floods. Which is probably... Because remember, mainly these floods do come... The flood can't come from up above, can it? Because all we've got is clouds and water. Even though the atmosphere, the ether, is made up of tiny particles of water. And as it goes higher, we have the same sort of thing as below, where the water is so dense that you can't get through. And this is why I believe no one's actually leaving the Earth, because they're hitting that water above the ionosphere, or around the ionosphere, about the ionosphere part, and they're not breaking through because the water up there is just as dense as the water underneath that Mike DeGraw couldn't get through either. He just bounced off of it in his little submarine. And if you look at the rockets that go up, obviously they're all going up like this, like a sort of a dome, like a shape of a dome, but obviously it's not literally a dome, it's just the rockets have to go that way because they know it's when they get up just up higher in the atmosphere, they won't get through this dense water. This is why no one's leaving. Because of the density of the water above us and below us, The water we see, like the oceans and, lakes and freshwater lakes, is just regular water that we see. But far down below, it's more denser. And way up high, up above, so below, it's dense too. So it's like we're living in that bubble, so to speak. So let's not take the Kraken literally. It's just the volcano vents. Release the vents, open the vents, the water comes up and causes the main floods. And this could have happened many, many times, apart from not just the big main flood. So then I've got my big brain thinking, my crazy little brain, crazy big brain, my science brain. And then I remember this cartoon. When I was a kid, I used to watch this cartoon. It was just a one cartoon, and it was called I can't remember what it was called, but it was based on a porridge pot, where his family was in their house, and they had this pot. I can't remember the cartoon properly, but what it was that they had this pot of porridge, and the family would eat the porridge, and some sort of magician or wizard or something put a spell on this porridge pot, and the porridge pot would overflow in the pot, and it would just keep going. So no matter how much they ate, this porridge pot would keep going. The porridge kept coming out of the porridge pot, out of the pot, and it would overflow. Then it's overflow and overflow. It would overflow inside their house. Then it would overflow outside into the outside of the house, and then the porridge from the porridge pot would flood everywhere like a water flood, like a deluge. I remember that cartoon. Do you remember that cartoon? Very old one. I think it was done in the 70s or something like that. Maybe 80s. 70s, 80s. But for me, that cartoon there, or that one cartoon they done, was based on the porridge pot that was overflowing. To me, was based on the deluge. I think that was another metaphor for the floods, the deluge. So the beast coming through a lower vent deep under the ocean, depicting a main source of water, which will be primary water, which is underneath us. And then you can move forward to the metaphor of the hourglass. And the hourglass, I've got this from my mate Paul, this wasn't my idea. But the hourglass, obviously, you turn over time. You turn the hourglass and it starts again. But as the hourglass goes down, the liquid goes down, the water, sand. Some are done with sand. It goes down, and things will go buried underneath, sort of thing. So this is what I'm saying. The hourglass is based on old civilizations, underneath civilization, underneath civilization, underneath civilization, that are going underground or being forced underground like an hourglass, which is down to the floods of the deluge. You with me? So that's all I really wanted to say on that. There's more I could say about the two magnetic poles and things like that, but I wanted to keep that short. I'm 11.5 minutes now, but I wanted to keep that short because I want to do a video on this. So I'm going to do the video on this over the next week, hopefully the week. I've only just been able to start posting on my YouTube channel again, because they've just hit me with 2 strikes. They didn't hit me with 1, they hit me with 2 strikes. So now I'm on 2 strikes. One more strike, I lose this channel too. They know what they're doing, of course they do. So I lost my last channel. It looks like this channel is going to go as well. But I do want to get this talk out, and I want to get this video out. And obviously I'm saving all these videos this time as well. And I've got everything backed up anyway on Rumble and other platforms as well. So I'll make sure I don't lose my content this time. The talking, not too worried about the talking, but the actual videos that I do make, that a lot of people find quite interesting. So I want to do those, but I want to do it all based on the volcano vents. Right, just before I go, I just want to read out about the volcano vents. Vents, of course, are locations in which lava flows through pyroclastic material that have erupted. Their forms and orientations can use to determine many characteristics of eruption which they were associated with. There are 2 main end members in the spectrum of pyroclastic vents in Hawaiian. Obviously, there's big volcanoes over there. There's splatter vents and cinder cones. That's one description there. Volcano vents are openings in the Earth's crust from which lava of the pyroclastic flows are ejected. Vents releasing. Volcano vents originate in the magma chamber, an underground pool of liquefied rock magma underneath the surface of the Earth, obviously. And what I was saying about the ocean they found underneath another ocean is underneath the volcano vents, which will be the magma. So underneath the actual volcano itself, under the crust, will be the other oceans that they found, up by the Arctic Ocean, the size of the Atlantic Ocean. Let's read one more. A volcano vent is a place on Earth's surface where lava flows, tephra, pyroclastic materials consisting of volcano ash, lipuli or bombs or fragmented rocks that have erupted. Volcano gases are also emitted out of vents. Volcano vents may be located in summit craters on the volcano flanks at the base of the cylinder cones, but they're not mentioned in water. You won't get that kind of thing on Google for some reason. Underwater vents and volcanoes, ocean today. Hydrophenomenal vents are often associated with undersea volcanoes, which is what I'm talking about here. This is because the vents are created and sustained by the heat of volcano activity, tectonic plates that rub together, boundaries found throughout the globe. Whatever you want to call it. Realm, globe, whatever you want to call it. At these locations, seawater seeps through the cracks into the seafloor and is heated through the molten rock, heated. One more, which is Wikipedia, which is never that brilliant. Volcano vent is a small shield of volcano in northern British Columbia, Canada. It's a Holocene in age of stands in relief above the surrounding area of north of the Nuska Creek and comprises of the West Tyre lava field and West Vent and Grizzly Butte. going to leave it there because I don't want to make it too long, this talk. But you get what I'm saying here. I'm working on these vents, talking about these vents and the depiction of the Kraken, which is basically just the vents of the releasing of the Kraken, which is just opening the vents to release the primary water out of the ground, because all floods comes from under the ground. This is our trees and all that. Big trees, especially big trees, especially back in the day when we had huge silicon trees as well, where the primary water would feed the huge roots that go very, very miles and miles and miles deep underground, because the big trees were actually miles high, allegedly. Thank you very much. My name's Electric Johnny Hat. Going to get this video done for the next week. I think it's a very interesting topic, this one that I haven't delved into before, but I just need people to understand about the Kraken. The film The Kraken was based on volcano vents, which was releasing the floods from underground, from the primary water. Thank you.